So, please help me welcome Bill Tan. Oh yeah. Oh man. I don't want to know. Do you need something to drink? Nobody. Do you need? Do you got something? All right. I was struggling to find water. I'm like, what the heck is going on in this place? All right. So this table is it's kind of rigged, kind of funny, so you can lean on it, but lean on it appropriately. Yeah, I'm using my cup of water as a to see how far the table is tilting. Okay, so this month's theme is how to find deals. Bill is probably the only person I would say from I talk about real estate investing in generations because the older generation passes down to the next generation. Bill is still doing creative stuff. How long have you been in this business now? 30-something years? There you go.
Okay. I started about 2 years ago. Actually, the first friend I met in real estate,
Yeah.
it's that man right there.
Mick? Mick Blackwell. So, but how long ago was that?
Huh?
How long ago was that?
Yell it. I'm not going to say it.
Okay, so it's been that long, and Bill still comes up with some of the most creative stuff of almost anybody I talk to. There's a tendency as you get into this business to get fixed in the track and to not be creative. And Bill tends to do an exceptionally good job, no matter what the circumstance is, to come up with a really creative solution. I think.
Thank you.
Um,
I just signed escrow on one of those today.
is that the note that we're talking about, or something else?
Something else,
Oh, what'd you buy? Can we talk about it?
if you want.
How'd you find it?
It was brought to me by an agent.
Why did the agent bring it to you? Did they get a relationship with him?
The agent wanted to sell this guy's house, but he didn't want to sell the house because he was going to have a really large tax bill,
Okay.
like $200,000 tax bill.
Oh my God.
And he's 70 years old, and he'd rather earn the money from that rather than pay the taxes.
Okay, so you converted it to a note?
So I bought his house for no money down. It can be done. And I'm flipping it for all cash.
Sweet.
And then I'm going to take the money, which he never touches,
Uh-huh.
and I gave him an IOU, and then I'm going to go out and make loans.
Okay.
And the income from those loans will pay his note.
Nice.
So his note was not secured against his house. So that note was unsecured.
So I don't want to go down that road too much because we'll get into real creative deal structure and you guys will be really confused. So
Just understand this. I have an IOU to the seller of the house. Okay. He sold to me because he had a need. And I showed him a solution in which he would not have to pay $200,000 in taxes, but he could start using that $200,000 to generate income for his retirement.
so Bill runs, is it called LA RIA now? Los Angeles RIA? What's your,
It's always been called LA RIA.
well, it was Los Angeles and Asian RIA before,
Now it's just
right?
Los Angeles RIA.
Yeah.
Real Estate Investors Association.
Okay, so you have a bunch of people that come all the time that are new, and there's a 50% of this room that's new, and so we all get the question of what do I do next? So what do you find this year is the most common advice you're giving people for finding deals now?
For finding deals?
Yes.
Most common?
Yeah.
Well, you must understand the people that I ask them questions, right? And the first question I ask is, what do you do? Because what I attempt to do is take what they already know, have knowledge about, and make use of that to find deals. Usually they say, I don't know nothing, I don't have any money, and I really don't have any time.
So
and I want to make $1 million by the end of the year. And I say, this is not the business for you. However, if they want to get started and they don't have any money, I just say, find a neighborhood that you're comfortable walking around and go knock on doors. And there's a technique to knocking on doors too, by the way. And you knock on the door and you step back a couple of steps and you turn at a 45-degree angle. That way, if somebody peeks through the peephole, you're not threatening, especially if it's an older woman. If you're doing this as a couple with a woman, you put the woman in front of you, because you'd have to run through them to get to the owner, so the owner feels more safe opening up the door. And then, I'm sorry, Mick? Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
In case anyone's going to get shot, you want them in front.
Make
bullet.
the woman the human shield is what you're saying.
Okay, well, I can't use my wife then, because she's supporting me. And then you just sit there and say, I love your neighborhood, and I'm thinking about buying your neighborhood. Do you know anybody who has an extra house that they need to sell? Now, another friend of mine says excess house. Let's say an extra house. That's a house where they don't need to live in. And they may not have any answer for you right then, or, as we were talking about earlier, you find the mayor of the neighborhood, and it's usually a woman. Sorry, guys.
It is.
And they know everything about everybody that's going on. And first thing they usually say is, well, so-and-so's selling the house, they're using an agent over there. Well, I'm not interested in using an agent. I want to talk to a live, real person. And, if this comes up, sometimes divorce happens, sometimes people pass away, some people get a job somewhere else. And if they need to sell, please let me know. And then what did Todd call it, leave behind? My leave behind is when I go door knocking, I take one of those little portfolios of paper that have the wire bound on top, and I just flip open the top, write my name, address, and looking for extra houses, and then my phone number and email address, and then I leave it with them. And where's Andy? Okay, that's called an ally, because I have other people looking for me now, and you never know when they're going to call you back. The best I've ever had from door knocking has been 12 years. Now, you have to understand, this is in my neighborhood. So it took 12 years for that to come to fruition, but the man was a walker and couldn't live by himself anymore. So he wanted to sell the house. He didn't want to pay capital gains tax. And I said, well, what are you going to do with the money, the $250,000 or $500,000? You are familiar with that, don't you? The government has one program that's really good for us if we sell our personal property, personal house. It's called Section 121 of the IRS tax code. And if you're one person that owns the single-family house, you can take $250,000 of profit out, free and clear. Just free and clear. If you're a couple, you can take up to $500,000 free and clear. Now, you always want to talk to them, what are they going to do with the money, right? If they get that money, what are they going to do? Are they going to put it on the table in front of you and bow to it every morning and night? Or are they going to put it in the bank? What's the answer you're going to get? Put it in the bank, right? How much are banks paying? Less than 1%. Well, can't you do at least 3 or 4 times better than that and still make a profit? This means yes, folks. Well, see, you talk, but you also find out what their needs are. And if it's an older person, they want to keep receiving income for how long? As long as they live. Can they live on less than 1%?
Nope.
Not well.
It's a lot of cat food.
I'm sorry?
That's a lot of cat food.
That's a lot. I have a... Did I tell that story?
No, but I've seen these situations.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yes. There have been situations where, in my case, there was an older woman. She was my grandmother's one of her best friends, and we went over to visit her. And I walked in and walked right back out because I'm allergic to cats. And my grandmother said, "Why'd you run out?" I go, "Well, Grandma, I'm allergic to cats." She goes, "Well, Sarah doesn't have any cats." I go, "Well, she's got all that cat food right there on the table." She had over $250,000 in the bank, and she was eating cat food because she was afraid of losing money. And so she was one of my initial investors when I got in the note business.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yes.
So do you?
One bad thing about my grandmother's friends,
Yeah.
I lost all of them,
Yeah. You lose a lot of investors real quick.
but that's okay. They lived well till they passed away.
I mean, so when you leave a note,
That's one way of finding money, folks. Older people who are afraid of losing money, if you can show them how to safely invest their money, you got them and all of their friends, not just some of them, all of their friends.
what do you think in that interaction, like because that's tough. Like, let's say it's your grandmother, and they have friends. What it is about that interaction that makes them feel safe? What do you think their worries are, and then what is it that you're doing that makes them feel comfortable?
Well, right now, a lot of the older than us people are from a generation that still remembers the Depression. And so they're terrified of loss. And even if they're not that old, they're still terrified of loss. If you can make them feel comfortable, and by the way, when I talk, I don't just talk to them, I attempt to bring in their family, a CPA, their accountant, an attorney, just so everybody knows what's going on, everything's above board, and there's nothing hidden whatsoever. And I make them extremely safe. In other words, I show them that it'll cost me more to renege on the deal than it would them. So in other words, if I was, in this case, from the deal we were talking about just a little while ago, the one I signed escrow today, I'm going to be receiving almost $600,000 cash out of that. Okay? I do not have that much property because I've been a note guy most of my life. But I have friends who have more than that in equity. And they're putting up their properties to secure this money. So in other words, we're giving her $4 million of equity for him. His name's Jerry. $4 million of equity to protect his $600,000. That note that's not secured, okay, we are going to secure it, but we're going to secure it against $4 million in properties. So if I renege, who gets hurt? I do, major. Okay, now the people who are helping me, what's in it for them? Well, we're going to make money, we're going to pay this person 4%, and we're going to make more than 4% with the money. And they're going to split it with me. As a matter of fact, not only are they going to split cash with me, but we're also making deals for equity. What are deals for equity? Can somebody raise their hand? What's a deal for equity?
Anyone?
Well, how about this? What's the value of our property today? Give me one. $280,000. In 10 years, do you think it'll be worth only $280,000? More or less? More? You think maybe a lot more? A lot more? Well, what if I share that? Let's say, well, you think it might double in price? You said a lot. Okay, you figured only go up to 350. I think properties will go up. I'm betting that properties will go up higher. But let's say it only went up to 350. So it went up $70,000. I would split the $70,000 in equity with my partner besides the income we're receiving from the deals we're making. I believe that when I do these deals, though, we're probably looking at a minimum of $200,000 in equity over the next 10 years. So, and if you were my partner and you lived in the property, the deal, you lived in it, and I put the deal together, and you paid a certain amount of rent for 10 years, the same amount of rent for 10 years, is that worth, does that have value?
Yeah, it's fixed.
And at the end of 10 years, we split the increase in equity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd either buy me out or we'd sell it and split it. You'd have a pretty nice down payment to go somewhere else, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. But you see, I want it to be like heroin. I want you to do more deals with me. So those are ways, just a couple of ideas on how to find money. And, well, we're here for finding deals.
We are finding deals, but I still want to go down the road because that's an important part of when you find the deal, you still got to get them to like care you exist. So you got to be able to tell something.
By the way, you said the word carry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or is it care that you exist?
What?
Care that you exist. You have to get them to care that, like,
yes.
You show up and they have to have a reason to care you're even there.
Yes.
So you're kind of giving the motivation behind how just beyond finding it, what you're kind of bringing them in with.
Well, I want to get to know these people, and that's my personality. I want to get to know them, and I want to be invested in them too. If they're older than I am, I want them to adopt me. Serious. There's one deal that, excuse me, there's one deal that I did in my neighborhood, and the woman that I did it with, I knocked on the door, she never answered. I came by a couple times, she never answered. How do you get around something like that if they don't answer? And you see signs that the house is not being taken care of. Cut their grass for them?
Yeah.
That's true, you might do that. No, I still don't think she would have come to the door. Yes,
I'd call in for a health and welfare check.
What?
I'd call in for a health and welfare check.
There's an easier way.
How's that?
Knock on the next door.
Oh.
Do they know their next door neighbors? So introduce yourself to the next door neighbor. Tell them exactly what you want to do. It looks like this person's having a little bit of trouble. I would just like to talk to them and see if maybe I can help them. That's all I'm there to do. I'm there to help them, and if possible, I want to make something for myself. Well, the neighbor introduced me to her. Now, is it better that I knocked on the door and she answered, or is it better that the neighbor introduced me? Neighbor introduced me. Well, Caroline and I sat down and we talked. I needed to do some work for her. She could not live in the house by herself anymore. She was becoming more frail. So I helped her find an assisted care facility. I went the extra step. And I bought that house from her, zero money down, and $1,000 a month.
That was so she could help have the additional money to pay for assisted care facility.
Exactly. Now, in this case, Caroline doesn't have any other family, and her property was put into a trust. Who's the other beneficiary of the trust?
I suspect you.
She adopted me without officially adopting me.
Because you help take care of a problem that no one else could solve.
I go and see her every week. Absolutely. This is a lady that was she would have been like Amelia Earhart way back when. You know who Amelia Earhart was? Amelia Earhart was one of the first women flyers, and she flew around the world. Maybe didn't quite make it. But this lady was a maverick, and she has stories that are just absolutely wonderful. Mine still functions. It's the body that's falling apart. And she was lonely. And she just looks so forward. And I look so forward. This purple button says, I'm still learning. I learn from her every time I go visit her. Something. Anyway, that's one way to find.
So
So if you can't get the house, nobody answers the house you're looking for,
yeah.
knock on neighbors.
Yeah, my suggestion is usually like just the five, right? All the ones that can see that property. Well, like if you can see it from the front yard, go check on them. Somebody probably knows.
I have another friend that we know. His first name is Mike. He puts a bright yellow door hanger on the door handle, and he comes by in 3 days to see if it's still there. Because if it's still there, that means nobody really needs that house because nobody's coming out of it.
So you said when you're talking about leaving a note, because I've found the same thing. I mean, leaving just a straight note, handwritten, is the most effective. Not pre-printed, nothing. Just I was here, I saw your yard, whatever, and you know. You know,
a lot of these people are dealing with the largest asset they've ever dealt with, and you look kind of slick.
It's a commercial, yeah. You're an outfit,
right?
Yeah.
And I just want them to know I'm the person that they will be dealing with.
Bill Tan, call me here. So when you talk to the neighbors, do you offer the neighbors finder fees, or do you just tell them you're going to solve the problem? How are you typically addressing a neighbor other than this is what I want to do? Is there an incentive?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
The neighbor that helped me introduce me to Caroline, I sent them a nice gift.
Okay.
Because it was a very nice gesture. If it's a vacant property and they help find, then I give them a monetary gift.
Do you offer it to them, or you just give it to them because if they do it?
I give it to them. I don't offer it. I give it to them because they do it. And once they get it, guess what happens?
Yeah, they want to do 10 more.
Heroin.
Yeah. So what is it? So then, what is it then in their what incentive, right? Other than that they like you, do they have to help you out?
Which ones? The ones
The
with the
neighbor,
vacant property?
any of the neighbors of vacant
Well,
property. or
you guys fix and flip vacant houses, right? Are those houses somewhat abused? As a matter of fact, on the escrow instructions, for the county, I had to sign something. It said, what's the condition of the property? I had never had to sign that. The preliminary change of title report. I had to put in what the condition of the property was.
Yeah.
So I said, poor and getting worse.
Yeah. You put "and getting worse" on the PCOR?
Well, it gave you choices.
Yeah.
So the last choice was poor, and then underneath it I said getting worse.
Getting worse. So,
You gotta have some fun with these things.
actually, this reminds me, I have a scenario for you that needs to overcome an objective. So is Isaac here? Isaac's not here, is he? I have this great seller that Isaac, one of the members, is going to see. He's a two-war vet. He's a great guy, like really nice dude. But his wife is in a coma, and she in a vegetative state, and she is now, I want to say it's going on like 10 plus years. This is a long time. You have the kids that don't want to pull off life support, and you have the husband who's sort of living in like his own little
Limbo.
Yeah, it's like purgatory, right? And so I went by with Isaac one day. We spent 2 hours talking to him. You know, he's just sharing stories and talking about, you know, he's got to go back on naval ships, and he's all excited about like his past, right? So he's got great, like you can talk to the guy forever. He has this property that's across town, and the city is just beating them up about it. I mean, it's City Ranch Cucamonga, and they're just like, it's an issue. It's a risk, right? He doesn't want to do anything with it because he would have to pay back all the Medicare costs for his wife that's being taken care of for this duration of time.
Right.
So when you have a situation like that, how would you overcome something like that with the seller?
Anybody have any ideas? What kind of property is it, by the way?
Single family.
Single family?
Worth rehab.
Doesn't matter what it's worth.
Okay.
Doesn't matter what it's worth. Is it vacant?
Vacant, paid off.
Vacant, paid off. How about renting it from him? Okay, but the rent will be you're fixing up the property and keeping it up. That way he doesn't get any income.
So would you fix it up,
And
rent the place
with the right
out
to sublease.
with the rent to sublease?
Uh-huh.
You do like a master lease.
Yes. And then I would create an account,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that I would save up for him
Okay.
until after. Well, no, that would have to go to his heirs because anytime you give
Yeah.
it to him,
Yeah.
they'll
gonna
the
capture
state will
it.
want their money back.
Yeah. So you have to give it to the kids.
Yes, so it would be one for the kids.
Okay. So it'd be like a
You can't
Trust
put
or irrevocable
you can't
trust.
put his name on it.
yeah.
Okay.
But I could do an irrevocable trust with a bank account.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I would check that. Okay. I would check that to see if that would work. As long as it's not in their name and they don't get the money. So you could create a trust where they're the beneficiary, but you just don't tell who the beneficiary is ahead of time.
So like next month's meeting is on negotiation,
Yes.
and
We're getting into it right here.
we're not though, and I was actually making that point.
Yes.
We're not getting negotiation because we're solving problems. Negotiation gets into terms, like how do you get people to agree to certain terms. I feel like, and that's why I wanted to bring you here this month. I feel like a very important part of deal finding isn't just like the random ideas you go out. It's like the overcoming of the problems and the relating, the person to person.
Okay, now, you have talked to, what's his first name?
Matthew.
Matthew. You've talked to Matthew, and you found the only reason why Matthew wouldn't do it is because he'd have to pay all this money back. However, Matthew, and I'm sure all of you would agree, that the house is falling apart.
Absolutely.
So wouldn't it be better for Matthew and Matthew's family that house is being taken care of?
Yeah.
And then you could have a note that is paid off upon his passing. So in other words, you can set a price today,
Okay.
no interest,
Yeah.
no payments,
Oh, and it goes to the kids.
and it goes to his heirs.
Okay.
Or you can ask him, how would he like to, don't know, I have to learn more. How would you like to fund your grandchildren's education?
No, that would be important to him. He's got 3 daughters, so
Huh?
he has 3 daughters with kids. That would be important to him.
Right, but
Yeah.
see, that way, not even the,
Yeah,
See,
it passes the kids.
parents usually give to kids, and what's the first thing kids do?
They blow the money.
They spend it. They spend it. And some parents know this, so you can have it set up for the grandkids.
There's actually an additional quarrel too. Not quarrel, but it's a weird circumstance because the kids don't.
You need to get all the
Yeah.
answers before you start providing solutions, by the way.
But the solution was actually right because the daughters, especially the grandkids, the daughters are the ones who can agree to take the mother off life support, and it's causing a family conflict. So,
Huge. That's a huge conflict. No,
Absolutely.
and I know of one case going on right now
Yeah.
where the father wants it and the children don't, or I can't remember. Wait,
Yeah.
one or the other.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's kind of,
What you got?
that's why you took my class. He was pretty good. I'm teasing him. I would not take it out of his name yet.
Yeah. The transfer's the problem, right?
Yes. You leave the trust in his name with the future beneficiaries being maybe the grandkids.
Yeah, because it's in him and his wife's name right now.
So you can't get, and you might have trouble because, okay, no, thank you for that. Might have trouble because the wife probably is on,
She's on title,
well, and then they just have to prove that she's been
incapacitated.
incapacitated for a while.
Yes.
So then he'd be able to put it into a
Yes.
trust.
But you could do the rents and the note because a single person could borrow against the property because if they're the lender, they can make that choice.
No, if it's irrevocable, then they can't.
No. What I'm saying is the note on the property. If you would have the note paid
No,
off upon
the note is not secured by the property.
it's just a generic note.
It's
Okay.
an unsecured note
Okay. To be unsecured.
because it has to be. If it's secured on the property, what happens? It gets recorded, and recorded is also known as public notice, right?
So what would happen? You think?
So then the government's almost always trying to get money. So
Yeah.
they keep researching names.
Yeah.
And if they pop up this asset,
Oh, they're gonna seize the asset of the
it's
family.
an asset. A
Okay.
note is an asset.
Yeah. Note's an asset. What do you got, Mick?
We could do a contract for deed, yes, a contract for deed, but you understand this, Mick? Understand
Throw it
this.
in.
A contract for deed is an agreement between a buyer and a seller. Okay, the seller retains ownership to the property, and the buyer doesn't get ownership to the property until they've completely paid
Oh, so you
the
can
amount
leave.
on the contract.
Okay.
Property is, he's getting income from that. I'm sorry? You also don't get a reassessment. However, they might see that the contract for deed has value. Because the buyer
Yeah.
will be getting equitable interest. Sorry we're going over this. But I'm explaining, I should have talked to you afterwards. I would not recommend a contract for deed, Mick.
Okay, so
So you want to also make them feel comfortable.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and one way to do that be to secure a long-term lease from them
Yeah.
by some asset you have.
Okay, 35 year. So I want to go into like be halfway between like ideas and the solution
Hang on a
because that's
second.
important.
Did what we just talked about? Did somebody not understand it? Because the only bad question is the one that's not asked.
Who
Because there are other
understood
people
all of it?
here who might have a question?
Who understood
and are afraid
100%
to
of
ask.
it? Great. So like most people didn't.
You didn't understand it? Okay. We have a seller. Okay.
I'll be Matthew.
We have Matthew. He has a property on the other side of town that he would dearly love to sell, but he can't because the state will take all the. the state will acquire all the profits, okay? And that's the only reason why he's not selling it. And the house is falling apart. Well, the way to do it is to allay his fears that the house will be taken care of and that he will not be assessed taxation by the entities. They won't steal his money, okay? Because he can rent it. That is some income, and he can.
Yeah, they could seize the income.
But you have to make sure the amount of income he receives doesn't go above a certain threshold where Medicare will be yanked.
So we're saying also that the kids could receive the income after his death,
Right.
because it's deferred through a legal structure. He lives in another house.
See, this is an extra house.
It's an extra house.
This is an extra house.
He lives in another house across town. This is a smaller one they used to live in years ago.
An extra house is one where the owner lives in another one. Okay? Not where they have to sell this one and buy another one.
So we talked about, I'm using the word bird dog. What's the word?
Jim, did you have a question? I told him to secure the lease hold with some asset that
Something
he
else
has.
I own.
Like real estate, real property.
Or a partner if I don't have enough assets.
Okay, so like a deed of trust against some other property.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't have enough. I don't have assets, so I can bring someone else.
You know anybody that has like 8 houses? He just said he has 8 houses he's trying to sell. Why not use them for collateral and make money from it?
I don't have any.
That's just another thing.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the extra step, the one step beyond. If you make a good deal for the family on this one, and they come to sell the other house, who will have an in before anybody else?
Yeah, don't forget the one they live in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I have, gosh, over my career, I think I bought about 50 houses that way, at least. Because it wasn't from the initial deal, but because I said I was going to do something, I kept my word. And so when it came time to sell their property, somebody may have offered a better deal, but they knew and trusted me.
You already proved your value.
I'd already proved it.
So
see, that's the problem you're going to have, right? A lot of you is proving to somebody on the other side, why do sellers need a down payment? Why do sellers need a down payment? And you don't say anything. What? Raise a hand. Because what?
good faith.
Good faith? Okay. Charlie, you've heard me say this, though. Huh? Credibility. Reduce the risk of a bank. The only reason a seller, unless they need it for an emergency elsewhere, is because they don't trust you to make payments to them on a seller finance
So
deal.
they're looking for an incentive bigger than
Right? Because if you're a parent and you sell it to your child, do they need a down payment usually?
No.
Depends
They
on how
probably
much
won't pay you though.
said
There's
usually.
a good chance they're not going to pay you.
Okay. Hey, why? Because they trust their children to pay them back. And because unless the kids are stupid, they're going to get it anyway. Right?
Yeah.
So the only reason down payments are required, almost always, is because they don't trust you. If you can prove trust or make them so safe that they go, wow, you'll be able to do more and more deals. See, the idea is not to do just one deal with somebody. Use that to be a footstep to do further deals. That's how you find further deals, from people you've done success with. They're called allies.
What do you think it is about your
May I?
meeting? Sure.
If you do something right for somebody, they'll tell about 10 people, right? Wouldn't you want people to do that for you? By the way, if you do something wrong, they'll tell everybody. You want to develop allies who then spread the word for you, so you have more and more eyes looking for you. Until I slowed down, 99% of my deals were referral. I didn't have to work to go look for them because I had other people who knew me and trusted me and were looking for me.
What do you, okay, so that, like, anybody in the audience will tell you, well, Bill, that's all well and fine, but I don't have decades of experience behind me. So what is it you think that, and it's always hard to remember back to the beginning, right? What is it you think, like, walking into somebody's home now that makes them, other than other assets, right? What is it that makes them feel like you're capable without saying, I've done 50 deals or 100 deals, or like, why is somebody going to trust you to begin with?
You have to have some integrity. That's just all there is to it. And if you don't have the experience, you have to know somebody who does. Does anybody in here know anybody who's done one or two deals? So you could say, my associate's done deals like this, and this is how they did the deal. So you give them an example of how it worked. Because you can't say you did it. Don't lie to people. They can always tell.
That's why I want to bring that up, because I feel like people do that a lot when they're brand new. They, I've done this for years, and like, why? Why would you say that?
I go to meetings and I know these people who've been doing it for years, and they did a deal just like this, and this is what they did. And this is what I would like to do with you.
So do you think?
By the way, you have to close it. This is what I would like to do with you, if possible.
Do you think that? Do you find that people? You have a lot of people come to you with deals that they went out in the field and they brought them back to you, right? For years, people have been doing that for you.
As a matter of fact, I just talked about that one. I had to develop some integrity with the seller of that property. It's in West Covina.
Mm-hmm.
I had to develop some relationship with him just by talking to him.
Yeah.
Okay. And remember, that's an unsecured IOU, first of all.
So if I talk to Jim, like whenever I talk to Jim about sales,
Mm-hmm.
he talks about window sales because that's a scam basically, and Jim would always talk about how you'd spend 45 minutes before you even talk about the deal, talking about the stuff in their house or whatever. So can you kind of talk about what your cadence is like going through from door knocking through before the negotiation? Like what are you doing?
Absolutely. First question is, so this is a wonderful house. Even if it's not in great shape, it's still a wonderful house. I bet you've lived in this neighborhood for, take a guess, 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. And I bet you've seen some things, and, what have you seen? What can you tell me about this neighborhood? So you're not giving them a yes or no question. You're getting them to talk to you. And then while they're talking to you, you look at them, not at your phone, okay? Though when you do look at them, then start looking around the room and let them know you're looking around the room. Oh, wow, see, when I talked to Jerry, he had, he had a boat, a speedboat. And I looked over that thing, I said, I bet you're pretty proud of that boat. He says, I was. And see how my face went? That's what he did.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
Because it was, you could see that thing was going 100 miles an hour just in that picture, sitting still. So he used to race boats. So it went more than 100 miles an hour. Probably went a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Pretty dangerous thing, racing boats.
So he starts telling you stories.
So he started telling me stories.
Okay.
And then I asked him how he got the home that he was living in. He told me that he had bought it for himself, then his job, it moved his territory up to Middle California, so he moved to, if you're familiar, Simi Valley, to be closer to his territory. And then he let his father live in the house, and his father lived in there until he passed away. But just before his father passed away, his sister moved into their house because she needed some help with her children. And when the father passed away, he went to check on the house, and it was in bad shape. So he had to use 6 trash, those ones that lifted up. He had to use 6 trash
6 dumpsters,
bins.
bins.
Yeah, to clear out that stuff. And then he asked his sister to pay a nominal amount of rent. Well, in the area that rents for $2,500, he asked her for $1,000. She never made rent payment one. And this is 2.5 years later.
Wow.
He finally got her out, said she had to go. When he went in, he looked around, and there was probably another 9 or 10 of those bins of junk. They were really terrible hoarders. And he says, I don't want to clean it. So that's why, by the way, that's why it was poor and getting worse.
So it's serious don't want her.
Huh?
Serious don't want her.
Serious don't. Serious
Don't want her.
don't want her.
Yeah. He was just had it.
Had enough. And this was from Simi Valley to West Covina is what, about 50, 60 miles?
Mm-hmm. How long do you think you talked to him from the beginning until you started talking about the actual deal?
About an hour and a half.
Just hearing stories and about the house and about his life and everything else.
I wanted him to talk.
Yeah, because
I have 2 ears and I wanted, and one mouth. I wanted to listen twice as often as I spoke.
yeah, you're really good about that though.
I learn more by listening and watching people than I ever do by speaking.
Do you think that time you spend with him, just listening, builds a level of trust because you shared their life?
That's everything.
Yeah,
That's everything.
and you get.
And I also brought in areas that we had in common.
Yeah,
I grew up in Arcadia. Well, he used to own a house in Arcadia. He flipped a house in Arcadia. So I knew exactly where that house was.
mm-hmm.
I told him, oh, you mean the one that's caddy corner from the park that has a tennis court?
Mm-hmm.
He says, oh, yeah, you've been there? I used to play tennis there.
Oh yeah, so you were like, we're the same.
Right.
Yeah.
What's his name? The big face, teeth, tall, 6'8", NLP guy, Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Says, people like people who are like them.
Yeah. He's got to find a common ground. So when a lot of people are probably going to wonder, like, oh, it's great, you got in the door and you talked to these people, but they want to know how you got to know them. We talked about a couple things. The one thing that I think you're probably facing now, and we're facing the same problem, is you get a lot of people at the club who love to spend a lot of time on the internet and not go to houses. What do you tell people? How do you nudge people to leave their computer and go outside?
There's some people you can't. There's some people who will commit suicide before standing in front of a crowd. There's people you can't get to go knock on a door.
Yeah.
There's some people you can't. I like to tell people that, no offense, if you use a service to find deals, whether it's Craigslist or whatever, how many other people are looking at those deals?
Yep.
Right? So you have competition. However, if you have allies that refer you, especially if that ally is their accountant or their attorney, how much competition do you have at that point?
Yeah, next to none.
None. No, if your attorney says, I've dealt with this person, he does what he says he does, it's a done deal.
Yeah,
You have no competition.
yeah,
whatsoever.
they're already edifying you. It's a great relationship. They trust you from the get-go.
Correct. And
So maybe
to me, it's better to cultivate referral sources than it is to go look for those deals.
So maybe let's conversation
However,
about
it
trust.
works. I mean, it works for Lisa.
What's important though,
And by the way, 50 people can send the same letter to the same house, same property, and for some reason the owner of the property will like one. It's just the way it is. By the way, if you're going to do that, handwrite.
They work better.
They
There's a
work better.
program called Bond that you can send handwritten letters with for like $3 if you don't have time. It's fantastic. I have poor handwriting, so there's actually signatures that look like certain people associate with certain career paths. I choose the one that looks like a doctor because I have really poor handwriting already. It just looks kind of, you know what I mean. But so we have about 10 minutes, and I want to talk about cultivating those relationships then.
Okay?
So in your list that we're going to pass down a little bit, you have a myriad of relationships, right? Like Uber drivers, landscapers, a whole bunch of stuff you and I have talked about.
I have to update it. Uber drivers isn't on the list yet.
Oh, it's on mine. I pretended it was on yours. But there's a whole bunch of these people who are service providers or out and about all the time. You know,
And I'm not sure an Uber driver would be on my list anyway. I'm not sure how I'd benefit from that.
how many Ubers have you ridden in?
5.
Do you talk to the driver?
Is the Pope Catholic? Is the Pope Catholic?
So when you talk to the driver, don't they tell you like that they about stories of other people in the car?
Always.
Because they all have a story. So all you got to do
See,
is
there's one. I learned purple. I learned something today.
But so that, I mean, that goes for everybody, right? It goes to landscaper, the pool guy, to like every person in your gamut. So there's a list of, let's say, 30, 40 career paths in which you could make allies.
Mm-hmm.
How do you pursue, or how do you start finding allies?
It's not an overnight thing. Sorry about that, folks. I would join groups where I know that the professionals that I want to meet with go to.
That's
and
good.
If they were a banker, I would zero in on them, and I would take them to lunch. Most bankers are not rich. It's just an employee.
Well, where's Sid? He's a banker for a long time.
Attorneys, take them out to lunch. You want to target certain attorneys, not all attorneys. Divorce attorneys, I've gotten, unfortunately, in a dissolution of a marriage, assets get broken up. So that, probate, estate attorneys, they were number 1 on my list.
Estate attorneys?
Yeah.
Typically because of the trust properties, because they're easy to buy, right?
Well, people put them into trusts.
I mean, the ones coming from a trust are a lot easier to take down than a probate.
For me, but you also have to understand a lot of times when I buy a property that's held in a trust, I don't buy the property, I buy the beneficial interest of the trust. It's a backdoor way of buying the property.
Yeah, I'm on board with Andy on this one.
Right?
Walk us through that a little more.
When you form a trust, there is a trustee who makes all the decisions, and there's a beneficiary who gets all the benefits. The trustee can also be the beneficiary. Are we clear? Okay. If the property is in a trust, I want to buy the beneficial interest of that trust so that people don't see my name as the owner of the property. And a lot of times, has anybody got their property in a trust? Did you ever then take a loan on the property later? What did you have to do? You had to take it out of the trust, right? Well, to buy a property, I don't have to take it out of the trust.
Because you're going to sell like Harry?
Huh?
Because you're going to sell like Harry, or because you're securing by something else? Or
Whichever way I'm going to do it, this is another way of buying a property that I don't have my name out there for everybody to see, including the tax person.
Do you pay all taxes required to? So
you had a question? Oh.
Do you find, you got a comment, Mick?
In this business, friendships are more important than the people with money.
Absolutely.
And he's speaking from, he's a very mature man. So I would listen to him.
His face shows it. It's
By the
pliable.
way, he has a meeting afternoons.
Yes.
Lunch meeting, Tuesday afternoon.
You know what? Do we have mixed meeting in our book?
No, it's not.
We don't? We need to add that. I totally.
It is a great meeting. It's
We
a
need to add
great
that to the
meeting.
list. Okay, so those attorneys, bankers, these people we're talking about,
Real estate agents.
real estate agents, what incentives do these people respond to? Why do they call you?
Okay. Attorneys, okay? They're doing what's best for their people, and they'd rather deal with people they trust. probate attorneys because they want to get paid, real estate agents because they get a commission, accountants are really good, by the way, not bookkeepers, but the accountants
Yeah.
ones, are good because it's in the beneficial interest of their
Yeah.
they have a fiduciary responsibility to their clients, and they're doing what's best for the clients.
Yeah, I've sort of noticed that over the years. I never thought about accountants the last couple of years, and it's really made a big difference. Like you notice how much they look out for their clients.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you develop a relationship with them, or if you don't have one, find someone who does have a relationship and get to the accountant that way, or attorney, or a financial planner. I really haven't liked financial planners because
No.
they do bring deals, but I don't like working with them.
I'm
Because usually they're fee-based.
I noticed they all want to put it into some kind of other vehicle that pays a lot less,
Stock.
and you're stuck with it. Yeah.
I bought notes and I bought real estate from people, and they put it into stock, hoping it'll go up.
Yeah. Spray and pray. Okay, so we talked about a wide variety of stuff. Let's do like 5 minutes of questions. Does anybody have any questions? Because we talked about all kinds of craziness. You gonna walk around the mic, Todd? Yeah. All right. Todd's make his way up here.
Well, why don't you say it and I'll repeat it? So the question is, how do I meet real estate agents that will work with me? And how do I talk to them? I like to meet with newer real estate agents. And I don't know if the ones that came up were new or not, but newer ones, because ones who've been doing it for a while, figure they know what they're doing already.
They don't need you.
I'm sorry?
They don't need you.
They don't need me.
Yeah.
And so the new ones, they don't have any clients, and you also want to show them the fact that real estate investors buy more than one property.
Right? Seriously, though.
And then you also need to instruct them that real estate investors need to make a profit, and it's not a dirty four-letter word. And have them look for opportunities. I talk to real estate agents, and I say, look for properties for sale that you know of. One, the property's vacant, and they're having trouble selling the property because my expertise are putting deals together. And there are more deals out there than you think. And so I have many more eyes out there looking for deals than I have. As a matter of fact, I don't bother looking for deals. I'd rather spend time cultivating relationships with people to look for me than for me to look for myself.
Do you find now that people call you for to solve their problems?
Well, yes.
Like an agent's like, hey, Bill, I got a weird client. I don't know what to do about it.
Yes. I teach another class, and the other class is about solution-based financing techniques and strategies. And I tell everybody to stand up and imagine yourself wearing tights of your color choice with a cape of also your color choice, but emblazoned in your chest says PS. And it stands for
Problem solver.
problem solvers. The amount of money you will make in this world are determined by the quality of the problems you solved, not by the quantity. Somebody like that.
That's highlighted. He's right, though.
Okay. The amount of money you make in this world will be determined by the quality of the problems you solve, not by the quantity.
Got all excited. No, we're good, dude. We're not going again. No, but it's right. Like you're solving high level problems. There's a lot bigger paydays.
Yes. And because I'm able to solve problems that other people aren't, I'm deserving of those paydays, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
It's a trade of equity.
I've spent over 2 years learning how to do it.
Over 2 years. That was a fast 2 years.
You know, if you just spend, let's say, a half hour a day reading on one subject, in 1 year you'll be an expert on that subject. It's the discipline of spending the half hour every day.
But I want to rewind a little bit. You said something really important. You said, "Oh, well, I'm owed that because I solved the problem, or I deserve it, or whatever." Right?
I've earned it.
I've earned it. Okay, so that's an important point. A lot of people, when they're new, they feel like they don't have value, and they have a hard time asking for income, asking for money in exchange for solving a problem. And I try and explain to people that you're trading solutions for equity.
If you have the feeling that you're not worth what you are when you're talking to somebody on the other side, do you think they know that? Do you think it's emblazoned across your forehead? Okay, so all you have to do is practice ahead of time how to talk to people. And it's the most terrible thing you can do. Record yourself.
Oh yeah, that's hard. There's
nothing worse than listening to yourself. However, you do it enough times, you get good at it.
Thomas,
nobody's a good speaker right off the bat.
How many phone calls did it take for you to realize you were talking absolutely terrible to every seller? He came into the office and he brought his recording, and I listened to 10 seconds, and I was like, "Stop!" And he sounded like a used car salesman or a phone operator, and the person was immediately like, "I got to get off the phone." They were hanging up on him. If you record yourself, it helps.
Yeah. When you're talking with someone, anyone, you're giving them the most valuable gift there is, and that's your time, because you can't get it back once you've given it. And people realize that. And especially if you're talking to someone who's older, they really understand it. Yeah.
That was my next question. Someone like myself that's younger, and we're going to be dealing with older people, how do you get past that age gap where they think you don't know anything? Why should they listen to you?
That's a very good one. When you're talking with an older person, okay, how do you get past the fact that they don't believe you know anything? That's one way to do it, and that's been my way. That I found that really worked for me, is I give them my time, I listen to their stories, they develop a comfort with me. I don't ask for anything. I never ask for a deal on the first time, ever. Never ask for a deal. I come back a second or third time. You have to make, you can either make an investment of time or money. When I'm dealing with someone older, the money's not as important as the time.
Hey, Bill, I was going to say.
Hey, Jim.
I was going to say, aligning a younger person, someone who's less mature in his business, aligning themselves with someone like yourself, someone that they could make a phone call to, someone they could bring to the site, someone they can involve in the deal. That's how you cut your teeth in this business.
Right, and that's what generally a lot of people, my students do with me, is they come and they say, "Look, I was talking to this seller. They're older. They really don't. We're really not getting there. There's an opportunity here. Can you come talk to them?"
So to add to that, don't forget that you need to build a team. So if you have a veteran CPA, a veteran attorney, a whole bunch of veteran people, and you are there with a seller, and you say, "You know what? I know my CPA knows this better than anybody. He's been in the business 40 years."
That is a great line. My friend knows this bit better than me. Would you mind if I let him speak to you? Brought him to speak to you.
You could call him. You could put him on speaker. "Hey, I'm here with the seller. Would you mind talking to him?" And then they can go through it. And sometimes they'll want to talk to them in private, away from you,
Yes.
and say, like, "You know what? I'm going to give Jenny your phone number so she can call you tomorrow, talk to you about the deal. And you've already brokered a relationship with this person. They know they're helping you close the deal because they're going to get paid or build a new relationship." So you are leveraging the power of people who are paid a fee in exchange for your credibility.
See, now, understand, you've brought something to the table there for the other person. You found the lead, and you qualified the lead for them. So that has value to just about everybody. Mm-hmm. Just saying, "I want to work with you," so what? What's in it for me?
And
Everybody asks that question, including sellers.
you could ask, I talk to these people all the time. What type of person, when I run across, should I call you about? And the CPA is going to say, oh, I like people who have tax problems, like people who have state issues, like whatever. And you're going to say, hey, I got the exact thing you said you were looking for, because you asked them what they needed.
And in exactly what he's talking about, bringing deals to attorneys, bringing deals to CPAs, there's what's called the law of reciprocity. You've done something for them, they feel obligated to do something for you. And they, you don't have to say it. It's just something about folks.
Mick was raising his hand.
I'd say the reason you gotta do it, get rid of that safety thinking, that they won't listen to you. Get the confidence in your own self where that doesn't bother you and you won't, be scared of it.
Confidence comes across. Nervousness comes across.
What I got it.
You don't have to. Ask them. They've lived in this neighborhood for a long time. What changes have they seen? Have they seen in the properties, in the people that live there? And then ask them about things they have in their house. People put things in the house that they're proud of, especially pictures.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's your grandkids? Is it your cousin? Is your whatever? Who's this? Or even they could even hate the same thing. Hey, that neighbor I noticed when I came up has got the car in the driveway for the last, how long has that been there? 5 years.
Well, I would say, I would like to help you. I'm not sure how I can help you right now. Would you mind if I thought about it a while? And could I come back and meet with you again? And would Tuesday or Thursday work for you? About 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock?
You did a lot of things, though, right now that you didn't explain. There was so much in that conversation. First of all, he said could, which he should have said when would be a good time.
Yes.
And then when would be a good time to come back and talk about this. And then he only gave 2 appointment times on date and time. So just so you know, it was he asked a close-ended question, required them to pick a time, and then chose the 2 times to force them to accommodate him.
Because both those answers work for me. Any answer they give me, because I've given them the choices. See, they feel they've made the choice. However, I gave them choices that were win-win for me.
Do you want the blue shirt or the red shirt? I want the black shirt. Why didn't I offer that? Nobody's going to ask for the black shirt. What you got?
How do you decide what your opening offer to them will be? A certain amount of profit you're looking for? Or?
Oh, that's good.
Good question. I'm never sure what the first offer is until after I've talked to them for a while. And they have told me what their needs, what they need. And I reflect that. I give it back to them. It's called reflecting. Okay, in this case, Jerry, you told me that the reason you haven't sold this house is because you don't want to pay the government actually it would have been over $200,000 in taxes. Right? They say yes or no. Okay. So what if I were to come up with a way that showed you that you could get rid of this house and the responsibility for this house, not have to pay the taxes, and provide you with an income? Would that work for you? When he said yes, then I had an idea what I could offer. Because I kept asking, okay, you said you need this, okay, how about this? I just kept asking questions. He has children, 70-year-old with a 13-year-old daughter. Started late. So so we're planning that he gets some cash in the near future when she goes to college. So I wouldn't have known this if I hadn't talked to him. I structured all these things up front. Did this take me more than one time talking to him?
Absolutely.
Now, the fact is, I've taken a personal interest in him and his daughter's future. Does that make a difference?
Huge.
Huge. Did this happen the very first conversation? No. I just, and then when the second conversation goes, I would go, Jerry, you know, my memory isn't what it used to be, and, oh, by the way, would you mind if I record this, because my memory isn't what it used to be, and I really want to listen to what you have to say. I've never had anybody turn me down. And then I go back and listen to what they say in case I miss something. So I don't just make a snap offer. My teacher said, good deals are created. Oh, excuse me, good deals are found, great deals are created.
True story.
This is a great deal I made for me.
And for him.
Sorry?
And for him.
And for him. And for him.
That's why it's a great deal. Because it's both.
And how did I find this deal? I found an agent. I told the agent exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for a house that somebody was not living in. That was an extra house, excess house, whatever you want to call it. And they were having trouble selling it. It wasn't that they were having trouble selling it. It's because he didn't want to sell it, because why? He didn't want to pay taxes. So he was in a quandary. He wanted to pay taxes. He didn't want to pay taxes. He wanted to sell it, and he didn't want to pay taxes. Matthew, he wants to sell, or he wants that house taken care of, but he can't accept the money. So let's solve what his needs are some other way. Sometimes it requires you asking a different question.
Well, I would say that leaving part, I mean, you have the shower moment 2 days later where you realize how to structure the deal. I had a deal I did with you, and you called me like 2 days later, hey, I thought about the thing you said. And you know what, I didn't think we could have done this. So sometimes that time really helps you come up with a far better solution that benefits everyone.
What's really funny is the way I work, I get all the information in, and it may be walking along the beach, maybe in the shower, I may be asleep. A solution or multiple solutions come to me, and I have a digital recorder right next to me. And I speak into that digital recorder right away. Why?
You'll forget otherwise.
How many have had great ideas that they forgot the next day?
How many people have a notepad on their phone full of like 10,000 things? Yeah, if you don't have the notepad full of 10,000 things, you don't write down your ideas.
Well, now the other thing is, why do I use a digital recorder? I don't do the digital shower either. No, what I do is I listen to it in my car later. When I drove up here, I listened to some of my notes to myself.
Yeah. I've sent Tyler several voice memos. I'll be talking in the car for 20 minutes, and I'm like, hey, I have this idea. I'm gonna text it to you, and I'll text him like a 20-minute voice recorder of me in my car just yammering to my phone. Because otherwise I would have forgot it.
That's right. That'll absolutely work. If nothing else, get the digital recorder idea. Mm-hmm. You have iPhones or smartphones, you can do it there, but I like my digital recorder better.
Yeah, it's like the way I see it is sort of like whatever you carry, right? If it's a digital recorder, if it's a phone, it's whatever the thing is that you're going to carry all the time, just to make sure you have something. Like they say, the best camera is the one you have.
Yep.
The best recorder is the one you have. All right, we're getting past time. So real quick, do we want to talk about this bill before we close out?
A couple things. One, you got two. One of them is invitation to my meeting, the Los Angeles Real Estate Investors Association, LAREA. If you come, the very first meeting is free. Come check us out. You need the flyer to get it in free. And secondly, and however, he does it almost every time.
But Bill is one of the only people I know who has a meeting that's dynamic and engaging, and everybody's involved. Bill does a fantastic job of that, so I'll second Andy on that one.
You guys do a great job too. And then the other one is the 100+ ways to find deals, just to give you ideas. And it also includes, things to do and to get, besides the ideas. And I broke them down to insurance, seller financing, sell the house, lease land. These are all different ways of finding deals. And if you ever have any questions, it just so happens my contact information's on there.
Real quick, Andy, what you got?
And by the way, I had a class, and I had Steven on the left, and I had Jim's moved.
Jim.
I had Jim and Andy on the right in the same class. And I made it work.
was
And I
fun.
still made it work.
We didn't go late either. We got them all done.
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
Actually, I'll tell you this, and I told Cass this earlier, Cassandra. He's one of my favorite students because he went out the very next day and put it to use, leasing a car for her and making and saving money on the deal. And I know Jim, he's called me up and says, I have my calculator with me the whole time, and I know you're using it all the time too. So these are three of my favorite students.
I use it constantly.
Oh, this is one of my worst students right there. If you ever get a chance, go to mixed meeting
Please.
or sit down and talk to them.
It's every Tuesday at it's the Grand Buffet, right? Is the name of it? Grand Buffet in Pomona.
He's got the biggest heart that I know.
Every Tuesday at noon. And there's like 10 to 20 people there, and you have like absolute engagement of some great people that meeting. You need to go.
And you have people who are beginning and people who are advanced.
Yeah.
And they're not prejudiced against each other.
As a matter of fact, that reminds me of some people from his meeting. I got to get out here to sit here. So what you got?
One more meeting that I forgot to point out at the beginning is Orange Coast Exchangers, which is a week from Friday.
Oh,
Orange Coast Exchangers, week from Friday. It's the
I
first
won't
Friday
be
of the
there.
month, right?
I'm going to be, there's a thing called Note Camp, which is an online note buying, note brokering. If you're, how are you into notes? You might try it. I'm one of the presenters, and it's Friday. My time is Friday. It's 3 days long. May I say something?
Absolutely.
I teach a class. It's a real estate finance class disguised as teaching you how to use a financial calculator. And I provide the calculator. I have a class April 7th. It's already sold out. If you're interested at all in maybe taking a future class, please let me know. Because if you do and say you were here, I'll give you the price now because I'm raising the price after this class. People are on my waiting list, get the old price, and anybody from here that let me know that was from here, get the price. It's $249.
It's cheap. It's underpriced, honestly, and it really is. And it will, if you can't make it to Bill's, take somebody's because the financial calculator will change your entire career, and that's no exaggeration. All right, this is going to go on forever. What you got, Mick? Yeah. Okay, you guys help me thank Bill.